The other day I was thinking about how we sometimes hold ourselves back from a better future. It's like we're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking at this beautiful view, but we're too scared to jump into the unknown. Imagine this. You're at a big amusement park and you've got a golden ticket. This ticket gives you access to all the rides, the fun, the adventure, everything. But instead of going on the rides, you decide to just sit on a bench and watch everyone else have fun. You're holding that ticket in your hand, but you're not using it. It's a bit like how a lot of us feel right now, especially with everything going on in the world. We've got this golden ticket to shape our own futures. Think about the AI boom and the rise of remote work, or the explosion of content creation on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. These are opportunities, our golden tickets to a new way of living and working. It's all about life maximizing every moment and opportunity to its fullest. I remember the time when I was too afraid to use my ticket. I was stuck in a routine, afraid to take this leap into something new. But once I took that first step, I felt a freedom and excitement I had never felt before. It was my own version of life maxing. So, what's holding you back? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Because the truth is, you have the power to change your life. Don't withhold yourself from the life-changing freedom and excitement that comes from following your dreams. Use your golden ticket, get on the ride, start life maxing. Your future self will thank you. I remember there was some very personal moments on this journey and where I am now making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you guys have been in the comments like raging about how I'm bullshit or whatever. And I'll just show you this. One of my businesses, you can see, and how do I show this? One of my businesses in the last 7 days has done $30,000. Just one of my businesses. And if we go over the past year, I'll show you guys this, just because I get a lot of this skepticism in these videos, which you guys should be skeptical. I'm making income claims. I'm telling you guys about all sorts of stuff. You can see we did about $1,100 in one of my businesses. I'm sure that you guys can see that. Cool. So it wasn't always like that. I remember very vividly that I was going to go the very comfortable route. I was supposed to go to college and go to school, or I was in college and I was going to school. I got a scholarship to go to college and get a degree. And I had everything, all of my life was heading towards this direction of getting a degree in computer science, going and getting a fancy tech job at an Amazon or a Google or one of these companies. That was my dream. Or that was the direction I was heading towards. Was in the talks with a lot of these companies and found all the info to get into with these places. I started making some connections that could help me get into these jobs, and I even had my college professors basically lining everything up for me. And through that journey, I ended up getting a sales job at one point, during the summer to just try to get some income going. I couldn't get an internship this one summer. And so I did this sales job. And at this sales job, I met all of these people that were, talking about side hustles and talking about different ways of making money. And then on top of that, they were showing me all of these pictures of them traveling to all these countries that I would love to have this dream life of. They would go to the Bahamas, they would go to Croatia, they would go to different European countries, they'd go to Latin America, South America all the time, and then they would go to Thailand and these places. And they were just telling me about all these trips that they were doing. And here's the thing, they weren't necessarily that smart of people. They didn't have a fancy degree, and in fact, they actually had no college degree. And they were making just as much money, if not more money, than I wanted to make going through this life of computer science. And they were also working significantly less hours than I was. And when I met this person, it really expanded my mindset of wow, I did not realize there was so much opportunity. And he was walking me through, with social media and all these tools that we have these days. It's never been easier to do a lot of this stuff. And so I myself was given the golden ticket, or at least I could see the amusement park, and I was given this ticket. I was introduced to this world and this life that I had never been given before. But this voice kept sticking in the back of my head. No, Devin, you need to go to college. No, Devin, you need to stick with the plan. It's proven. It's guaranteed. It's just like, if you already have a very beautiful life ahead of you. But I like, my soul was kind of had a separate conversation. It was like deep down inside, it was telling me that like, you're going to be sacrificing a lot to go down this route that we are going. And the sacrifice to me was of my soul. It was of like having to do things that I didn't want to. It was working for somebody else. And being a part of being juiced and milked for every ounce of energy that I have to build these giant companies and be a part of them in this corporate world, knowing that it was at the sacrifice of my own passions and my own dreams and my own visions, because I felt like that was like the best trade-off I could possibly make. Because I am a person that I look at, I'm a little bit more logical. I look at like the differentiating of the consequences of like the decisions we make, and that's how computer science works. So we get taught logic and how to work with logic. But there was another part of me that was like, it was like two wolves that were inside of me, and like two forces, they like have the little voices on our shoulder in the analogy of all the shows and movies. But I had this other, side of me that was telling me that, Devin, this is not what we want. We don't want to set like if there's these two paths, they both like, let's say you get to the same end outcome, and if anything, one can get you to the end outcome sooner. You get to it in 5 years to 10 years instead of like 20, 30 or 40 years. But then on top of that, it's like you get to discover this version of yourself. Like you get to max out on life. You get to max out at life at a younger age and get to live this retired lifestyle at a younger age. And I saw this in front of me, and I was listening to my father's voice inside of my head. I was listening to all my mentors. I was listening to all my college professors. And I constantly had this voice ringing in my head that, no, I need to stay down the path. And I was kind of wanting to take this ticket and just throw it. Just get rid of it and just go down the path that was already proven, out the safe route. Even though I saw all these roller coasters and all these amazing rides. And it wasn't, I remember just kind of like really sitting on this. And it took me like a couple weeks, so maybe even a month or two, to be honest with you. Like it was like at the very beginning of the sales job, I got introduced to this. And it was just looming over the back of my head for weeks. And as the analogy goes, is like, it finally got to the point where I was really questioning, like, is this really what I wanted? I started watching all these videos of people that were, getting into these tech careers, and they were talking about what it's like, and they're just like, it is not what I thought it would be. It's like, yeah, you get to make some pretty good money, but it's just like those opportunities are a lot far and fewer between. But let's say that you do get the opportunity. You're on a clock. You get the benefits, you get the nice income, you get the cushy salary, you get the cool stuff, all the benefits that come with the job. But it's just like, every one of them was talking about how unworth it was. And a lot of them, after a few years, 4 years, 5 years, they would just go and start their own company at the end of the day. So then they could get out of the mix, or they would go work for a startup, and then eventually go build their own company, or like be a part of a startup. So then they can have a lot more control of things and have a lot more freedom and a lot more choice of like what their day-to-day life is looking like. And even though it maybe pushed them a little bit, but then at least they could see the vision of like where this is all going and where it's all heading. And so I was watching all these people, and I was starting to realize, I was connecting the dots, that the direction I was heading doesn't make much sense anymore. And I remember very vividly, I saw this video of someone high up at a college, the president or whatever, the university, talking to a business owner that was interested in hiring interns from their company to then eventually get recruited and hired by the company that they were interning for. And the conversation went like this, or this was brought up in the conversation, which was, we at our university train up the best workers out there. We're going to give you the best workers that you could possibly get. And they were basically selling them around the idea of that they create great workers for a company. And then realizing it, like seeing this, kind of helped me see the grander vision of all of this. These universities and these colleges, they're built to create assets. They're a conveyor belt of creating talent to put into the marketplace. Makes sense, right? Like, all these companies need employees. Employees are the resource, are the assets. And everything is optimized towards programming or like creating the best employees. It's almost like the scene in Star Wars where it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi goes to the planet. It's like raining and pouring when he meets him, when he runs into Boba Fett and Jango Fett. I think Jango's the son, but he meets Boba Fett there. And he goes in and like he gets shown by these alien dudes like all these stormtroopers that are getting trained up. And it was like to create this army that is controlled by whoever is in control of the army. And you just see this process of the creation of the stormtrooper. So then they had a warrior or whatever to be able to go fight wars or be trained or to be security or whatever it is that the leader needs or whatever, like to create a whole society's like warriors essentially, you know. And then these stormtroopers, they're part of the good side, and then the politics change and the Sith Lord takes over in the movie, and then now the stormtroopers are fighting a different war, and they don't have a choice in any of this. You know, in some of the later movies, they bring to light some of the characters and the personalities of each of these individual stormtroopers, and these stormtroopers are like, either they killed off their soul or the ones that have remains of it, they're very unhappy and they're very dissatisfied. So either you had to completely just forget this previous, like you have to just ignore the self and the soul, or you have to, you know, the people that do have it, they have to suppress it, they have to hide it, and they have to withhold it from everybody else. And they have to withhold themselves from everyone around them, or else, you know, they could get killed, or you know, they're going to go back to being retrained and go back through the system to let go of all these, you know, things that are outside of the norm, you know, which entropy makes sense. You know, it's like entropy happens and it's just like eventually, you know, the cracks start to get loose. But I would say we're at a stage right now where the entropy has been let go of so much that there is more choice and opportunity than we've ever had before. Like, they've let entropy happen for too long. And of course, the people that are in control of the system, they want to close the cracks and re-clean everything back up, so then they can go back on their normal agenda or their normal process. But before the systems are here, we have entropy at its finest, as in you don't have, like, there is opportunities that have came so available for the average person to jump into being on a life of freedom and a life of choice and a path of their own destiny as they so choose. And so I went back, like I was sitting there and I realized, like this video that I saw, kind of like, you know, this whole stormtrooper process and watching Star Wars. I went back and found the ticket. I went back to the dumpster, or like wherever I threw it, and I went and looked for it. And I found the ticket. And I went to the roller coaster or the theme park and the amusement park, and I gave him the ticket and I said, I want in. What did I do? I went back to the guy and I said, hey, I want to do this. Like, I want to know more about this. Like, how can I go down this pathway of learning this and going towards this direction? I didn't end up doing that. But one thing he taught me, we sat down, and there was a keyword that really struck to me, like struck a chord with me. He kept using the word side hustle. It's like, you need to do a side hustle. You need to find something that's a side hustle to turn into your main thing. Because to just drop everything and then just quit everything, you can go do that and go all in, but it's typically smarter to have a side hustle and always have side hustles. And then when something works and when it actually produces a result, then you can go all in on this thing. Now you have something to go all in on and you have a proven game plan. Because that was kind of the distinction that I was kind of stuck at. Do I just quit what I'm doing and then go entirely down this route? And so this was that gap that I was looking for. How do we find something that allows us to start going towards this pathway that ultimately that we want to go towards, but without sacrificing the cost of everything? So what did I do? I ended up looking up side hustles. I went on this website. It was like called 101 Side Hustles. I bet it's still out there right now if you looked it up. And I went down the list, and there's some weird stuff on there, honestly, that I don't even think would have been a good opportunity. But what I did was I made a list of 3 things on that side hustle list that I liked. And the ones that I picked were going and doing a job, like a print on demand, like a t-shirt business. One of them was flipping cars because I kind of like cars. And then another one was real estate wholesaling. There were other opportunities on this list, like when I looked at it, but those were the 3 that stuck out to me originally. I think there was like Etsy stores and stuff like that too. So I ended up doing real estate wholesaling. And what I did is I got obsessed with real estate wholesaling. So while I was doing the sales job this summer, my side hustle was doing real estate wholesaling. It was kind of the side project. It wasn't making money right away, but I was just like starting to do it. So in my free time, I started watching and consuming all this content on the business model, which is basically, if you don't know what real estate wholesaling is, it's finding people that want to sell their property at a lower price and then selling, like getting it under contract and selling the contract of the rights to the deal over to like an investor. Okay. And so what that consisted of was me every single day watching these videos on how real estate wholesaling worked and getting educated on it. I tried to figure it out myself. And so this one guy says to go buy bandit signs. He had this program, and I was like, I don't want to buy that. I just want to go put up the bandit signs. So I went and bought a bunch of bandit signs, I think about 100, and I put them all up everywhere. It cost me like $600 to do it. And I didn't see any results. Nobody wanted to sell their house to me. There's a couple people that called me and said, you're a piece of shit. And then there was one dude that said, hey, if you find any houses, let me know. I would love to buy them. So at least I had found somebody that was interested in buying the houses that I found. He knew what I was doing. He's like, hey, I have money. Like, let me know if you find anything. So then at that point, I put all these bandit signs out and nothing happened. So at this point, I went back to reading and studying all these things and watching these podcasts and listening to people. And then there was this one company that it really resonated with me. They had an opportunity. Like, they had a way of helping people do it. It was really expensive compared to like some of the other ones. There was like cheaper courses and stuff like that. And I look at the reviews of those and they were just all right. But this company, they would just show result after result after result after result of all these people that were having success with their coaching and their mentorship. And so what did I do? I ended up signing up for it. I got on a call. They had like a way to get on a call with them, and I signed up for it. It was a lot of money for me at the time. It was like $5,000 or so. And that was like the most I ever made in a month at that point. I think I made $5,000 that month or so. So I had the money, and they were just like, it's a lot of money. It's $5,000. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And they kind of walked me through some of the concerns that I had, and I ended up working with them. And then, so I started working with them, went through their entire thing. And then I just reached out and asked them, I was like, is there anybody like in my area that I can partner with to help me do some deals? And they said, yeah, sure. So I followed their process inside of there. I think I just sent out postcards that they had that were proven. I sent them all out. And then I ended up finding a few I think 3 deals or so that were like potential deals. And so I brought them to this guy that was in my area that I found through the community. And I was like, hey, I found these 3 deals. Can you help me try to like turn these into deals? And he said, yeah, sure. And so we split, we 50-50'd on it. And I found this, like I gave him the deals. We tried a couple of them. 2 of them didn't pan out, but one of them did. We went to the house. I remember meeting the guy, and he was like, he wanted to sell his house. He was kind of in some critical health conditions, and the house was in critical conditions as well. It needed a new foundation. It was pretty serious stuff. And so he didn't want to deal with the foundation. You can't list a house on the real estate website to sell a house in that condition, and he needed the money. So the person I was working with helped me come across like a number to offer the guy, and we offered it to him. And in that process, we ended up, we gave him a price, like an offer on it. I think it was maybe $50,000 or something like that for the house. It needed a lot of work. It was a smaller house in Minnesota, and he accepted the offer. So, and we told him, hey, we're going to see what we can do. We're going to get some people in here inspectors to go look at this and talk to our connections and see what we can do. If we can't find anything, we'll have to find a different way of doing this deal, So it was like, hey, yes, I'm selling at this house. We got it down on paper and writing saying that he was down for that, and he was open to it and willing to work with us. So we ended up doing we called a bunch of people that we knew that were interested in buying houses in the area, had some of them go and look at the house, and I went back to college at that point, actually. So I wasn't out there. My partner, the guy that I was doing this deal with out there, he went and he was showing this house to all these people. And I think after showing it to 10 people, there's a few people that were interested, but they wanted it for about the price that we had, so we would have been break even. But then one guy offered us $5,000 more than what we got it for, and then another person offered us $16,000 or $17,000 for more than what we had it for. And we ended up working with that guy. We gave him the deal. He gave us the difference that he wanted the deal for. And then we ended up making whatever it was, $16,000 or $17,000 on the deal, and we split it. So that one deal made me $8,000. So I went back to school and I got a check in the mail for $8,000, and I was like, this is my ticket. This is my golden opportunity. So that semester I went and I took that money and put it back into finding more people to work with. And then I found a few more people. I found a few more deals and a partner out in Idaho to help me out with this. And I ended up making $30,000 while I was in college. And then I made a YouTube channel about it. And I shared my path and my journey, my stories of selling these houses. I was no expert. I was not somebody who was, insanely talented at this, doing, hundreds or thousands of deals like some of the other people were doing this. But I just shared my stories. I shared what I did in the process. And in that sharing of the process, I had a lot of people that resonated with my story. And I ended up just telling my story. I helped a lot of other people get to where they were having success and results with it. And I fell in love with YouTube. And I was like, wow, this is something that I can make money on. And people love it. And even if I wasn't even that proficient at things, I could get proficient and learn skills and then teach people the skills I was learning as I was going through the skills and learning that. And that was me taking advantage of the golden ticket. And then life unlocked. I was making a few grand a month. It wasn't anything too crazy. And I dropped out of college. I had a few more houses I flipped. I think one of them did like 20 grand. And YouTube was doing pretty decent. So what did I do? I went all in on YouTube, actually. I ended up stopped doing the wholesaling thing, and I fell in love with YouTube and entertaining people and educating people. And that fell down the pathway of me discovering Faceless YouTube channels, and I went all in on that because I liked that business model way more. It was something that was way more fun. It was something that was a lot more reoccurring and a little bit more passive. And then once the YouTube channels blew up, then I really was a part of the amusement park. Then I was really a part of being able to do whatever I want. Because first of all, I just got my time back. I dropped out of college. I didn't have to go back to school. I had an income. It was paying for my rent. And then at that point, I was all in on just trying to grow as much as I could. And I got to where I was making over $40,000 a month. This was back in like 2018, and then 2019, I had a really big month. And I was making at least 10 grand a month now at this point for my YouTube channels. And from there, I went and traveled the world. I went to Indonesia. I would go to different places like Arizona and California. I was living in a small farm town. And then I moved to Arizona, my channels were doing really well. I had I bought a new Lexus at the time, got it fully optioned out. It was like brand new. It had like 4 miles on it. And I was like, yes, this is cool. I finally seeing something of it. And I was living in this house, this beautiful house. And then in this journey, everybody started reaching out to me. I would just post this all on social media, and people would I was just sharing the results that I got, and everybody wanted my help with it. And the moral of this story is just one thing led into another. And it was scary at first. It definitely was, because it was not the path that I had. And it was not it was not the direction that I thought I was going to go down in my life. But one thing led into another, and all of these doors started opening. I just kind of followed what was in front of me. And I didn't know I was going to get into YouTube. I thought nothing of YouTube at the time at all. But me starting doing all this stuff, one thing led into another, and then I started finding things that I was really good at. And they were things that would be able to pay a lot of money. And I just kept going down the pathway. And that leads me to where I am today, of making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And I'm only 25. And I have a big life ahead of me. I'm going to reach the point where I'm going to make over $100 million in my lifetime. I've already made over $3 million, and most of that was in just the last couple of years. And now I have this whole future ahead of me, and it brings me peace in my life. It brings me fulfillment. I know who I am. I know the person that I have become in this journey. And knowing the alternative side, the other pathway that I would be in right now, and comparing myself to that other alternative version of myself, I'd be in a job, I'd be in a cubicle, I'd be working with somebody that I probably didn't necessarily like in working with, and just kissing ass and just working my way up the ladder and slaving away, and having most of my money go towards taxes, and not having any control of what I do or what my work schedule looked like, and instead working with somebody else. And hopefully I wouldn't have gotten laid off in these mass layoffs that they've had recently, and there's probably going to be more of those. But it was a blessing in disguise going down this pathway. And so you yourself you are withholding yourself from this ticket that you have in front of you right now. You have this ticket. The opportunity is right here. The question is why are you not doing that? Like, what's withholding yourself from it? Is it something like fear? Is it something like doubt? Is it something like being afraid of letting yourself down and letting down all the other people around you? What is it? Because I know for myself it was those things. It was like I was afraid of letting the people around me down. I was afraid of me going down a different pathway, of failing, and then not being like just eliminating all this potential. But there, I'll give you a few thoughts that kind of allowed me to keep going through all this, which was I could always go back to school. I could always go back to college. After a year or two or a few years, I could go back to college. Like in some countries, it's like a break year is like a huge thing. So, you know, you could always, like if you're in school watching this, you know, you could always take a year off and then go back doing it, go back to school if the other things don't pan out. If you're working a job, it's all about finding that extra time of the day and just applying it instead of watching Netflix, instead of drinking, and applying it towards this thing this thing that might turn out to be something. The opportunity costs, taking advantage of not leaving opportunity costs on the table and jumping onto these things and trying things out. I even do this today. Like I will get on calls with people that I see that are up and coming, that are emerging. And because I kind of align with them a little bit, I'll help them out and I'll try to help them do their opportunities better. And it's, you know, maybe that might turn into somebody that, you know, might present opportunities to me down the future. I try not ever to like cut off all opportunities. I always try to, like, I'm very busy. I don't have a lot of time, but I'll get on 5-minute calls. I'll get on 10-minute calls with people sometimes, and I'll hear them out and I'll see how I can help them out. Maybe I have someone that I can connect them with that'll change their life, or maybe there's somebody that's talented that makes me look good and I can, you know, present them to somebody else, and it boosts my reputation. And so you have to ask yourself, what's your golden ticket? What are you going to do right now? What are you going to do with this this moment? And what I will say with you guys is, remember, as the saying goes, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Take that step today and embrace the life-changing freedom that you have ahead of you. Start life maxing. Set a small, achievable goals. Find a mentor who inspires you. And explore resources that align with your passion. Look at what's happening around us. The rise of AI, remote work becoming the norm, and platforms like YouTube and TikTok are providing endless amount of opportunities. I'd love to hear your guys' stories. What's your golden ticket? What's one small step that you're going to take today? Drop a comment down below. Let's start a conversation. I believe in you. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Cheers.